Pleasant good afternoon, one and all. Good afternoon. A very good pleasant Friday afternoon. Welcome to the Friday afternoon's episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence. Today, Friday, the beginning of the weekend, last working day in the week. So here we are, Friday the 3rd day of October. We are into October in the year of our Lord 2025. Welcome. Hope you are preparing for a relaxing weekend. Don't overdo. Just relax, charge your batteries for the new working week. So here we are again this Friday. Another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks for being in the land of the living. Let's enjoy the privilege of being in the land of the living. Share the live. But the numbers are there, not what it used to be, but the numbers are there. So keep sharing the live and let them know that we are on. The program was, the school gate was open at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and immediately we had students, as is customary. They are there waiting to get into the schoolyard, and then when the doors are open, the school doors are open, students enter and take their seats to listen to some, or to be fed with very informative, educational, credible information. Yes, and we're not going to disappoint you this afternoon. We have never disappointed you. The numbers will confirm that. Because if you were disappointed, I suspect many of you would not give your precious time, especially on a Friday afternoon, to sit there and to listen to us. Well, not only sit, to whatever you're doing. Some of you might be in cars, minibuses, going home, people in New York, on the bus, in the train, and wherever you are, sit back. We're going to bring you credible, valuable information. My colleague, CC, is in the studio. He's waiting. He is waiting in the studios, and he's going to join us when we are ready. Now, as I've said, today is the 3rd day of October 2025. A very important day in my life. When we finish the announcements and the roll call, I'm going to tell you, very significant day in my life, the 3rd of October, and I'll tell you something about that. Not only on my life, but several young men, right? Several young men. 3rd of October. Let me go to the roll call to acknowledge those who were here very early. The first at 2 o'clock, we had Wayne from the UK, Peter, Ulrich, Claire, Danny, Kevin, Barled. He came at 2, but he's not listed as number 1, but all came at the same time. Stian, Puran from the Essequibo Coast, Esla, and then shortly after we had Vibert, Raul, Rosalind, Sean from upstate New York, Dexter, Brian, Derek, Courtney, Joan from New Amsterdam, Clifton, and Clifton is all the way from Paris, Carl, Claude, then, Melinda, excuse me, Denise from Florida, Earl, Marcia, Aubrey, Francis Keith, and he says he's not joining us from Melanie as usual. He's joining us from Queens, New York. Welcome. Jaco, Mark, Tessa from Florida, Colin, and Anthony, Anne, and the list goes on. And when the school door was open, let me see who's the first student in the schoolyard. Not the yard, in the classroom itself. We have lots and lots of students here. The first in the classroom, not surprising, is Edward Charles. And he was followed by Raquel. Rosie Rose is always early too. Joyce Prince. Then it was Sister Trifosa. Mahadio is here. Thomasan. Then it was Charlene, Otta, and Tish. And the list goes. Nigel, Messiah. Mas, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Right, so the list goes on and on. So that is for the acknowledgement of those who came early. And let me now deal with the announcements. We told you some weeks ago about the death of popular businessman Carl Boyce. Carl will be buried tomorrow. Well, my understanding is a service tomorrow in Brooklyn at the Caribe or Caribe, however you pronounce it, funeral home on Utica Avenue. And there is some information which I'll get to you that after then the body goes to Guyana sometime later for another service and burial. So this Carl Boyd. So it used to be very popular in America Street, what we call Wall Street. Used to be there. He was a go-to man at some stage in the city. So Carl has died and will be buried. Then we told you about the death of Mary Light, former member 0853 Mary Light, and she will be buried on October the 16th. October the 16th. And there will be a wake for her on the 15th. That's the night before the Girl Guides Pavilion in Brigham from 6 p.m. on the 15th. So that more information on that later in later episodes. And we also learned, sadly, of the death of retired Inspector William Bailey. William Bailey, they used to call him, I think they call him Admiral. We learned that he died in Canada recently. Then I told you too about the death of Eiffel Garnet Deonorine, known as Titus. Used to be on the Linden Suzac Highway by Big T area. He lived at Ilfoot, and he will be buried tomorrow. The information is the viewing will be at Jerrick's Funeral Home from 9 to 10 in the morning. Then he goes to his residence at Ilfoot Suzac for further viewing from 12. And then the service will take place at the Ilfoot Church of the Nazarene, and interment will be at the Kurukururu Cemetery, right? So, and then I learned yesterday of the death of Terrence Johnson, right? Well, some of you might not know Terrence Johnson, but he was the son of Horace Johnson, Bora from TSU 12397, and only in November, I think it was, that Bora died. Now, I learned yesterday that his son, I learned last night, that his son died as well. Let me say, I want to express condolences to the relatives of all those who have passed, and may the good Lord give you the strength to go through this difficult time. Now, for the more pleasant announcements, let us tell you about birthdays. Today, we have the birth anniversary of Deputy Superintendent Hunt, Vishnu Hunt, right? Also, retired Detective Assistant Superintendent Osmond Mason. Used to be at CAE headquarters. Remember Mason? I think he used to be in the some in the crime lab area there. So on Vishnu on Deputy Superintendent and Mason is there observing the birth anniversaries today. And then we have in terms of advance, we have retired Detective Superintendent Trevor Osmonds. He going to be observing shortly. And a man who is on here, I'm sure right now, I spoke, Francis Keith, who is in Queens. Francis is observing a birth anniversary soon. Also, another student, Nibert Emmanuel. She is also observing a birthday shortly. So, again, happy birthday or birth anniversary, however you style it, to all those who are celebrating today, who celebrated recently, and we're going to be celebrating in the near future. All the best. Remember ringing Mr. Conway, and then we're going to get on with it, as you would say. CC, welcome. We noted that you have a different background, but welcome.
Good afternoon. Happy to be in the land of the living. And because I really wanted to be on the program, I choose a different location. So that's where I am right now. My sympathy to the relatives of those who died, especially Admiral Bailey. I interviewed him for when he wanted to become a policeman. I trained him. And I remember when we had a junior officer course, we selected two persons to assist those junior officers. He was one of them. And they had a cultural presentation at the police officers' mess. And Bailey sing Cry Easy, and he sing a wonderful song there, and it was a real hit. And we became real friends, even after he worked with me in the interior, the division, and we met regularly in Georgetown. I saw him the day before he left to go to the States to reside with his second wife, and we spoke. I understand he had a stroke and then he passed away recently. So my sympathy to those persons. And I want to shout out to Brother Smith. Thanks for your words of encouragement, your words of inspiration, and also the thanks for your contribution to the program. It's always wonderful when you can give from the little that you have. But then again, I was reading the Bible, and the Bible said there is more happiness in giving than in receiving. So thank you, Brother Smith. And let's get on with it.
Yeah. Let's get on with it. CC told me, I think it was last night or something. I put my mouth on the West Indies team. I tell you all, right, I don't deal with sentiments. I deal with cricket. What? They won the toss and elected to bat first. We understand. Were bundled out for 162 or something like that. Sean can know the score. And India at the end of the second day, 448 for 5, a lead of 286. I know I tell you, anytime West Indies bat first, it's a 3-day game. So chances are if India declares, game one done, likely to done tomorrow. We hope that they can fight and push it to the fourth day, show some resistance. We hope they can show some resistance. But if India continues to bat, then maybe that will cause it to go deep into the fourth day or so. But that is what we have. I told you earlier that today is a special day for me, the 3rd of October. Today is my anniversary of joining the Guyana Youth Corps, 3rd of October 1969. A little teenager go to join the Youth Corps, ended up in Chumachamari. And there, let me tell you something. Y'all bear with me. Those of you like me get into the thing, and you're not too. Perhaps you think we waste a little time. But I gotta tell you, as a youngster in 1969, the same issue we have now with Venezuela was there, very prominent. Venezuela can invade and Venezuela can do all of this. And therefore, we were all, as young men, a lot of young men in the village, we wanted to go and get trained to fight against the Venezuelans. We wanted to go and get military training. So we decided we go and join the Ghana Youth Corps. And we were taken to Chumachamari. I remember that very, very well. Let me tell you something. While I say a significant day, that was the most significant event in my life. The most significant event in my life is joining the Guyana Youth Corps. Because to be honest, to be blunt, I was considered a little own way, a little wayward little boy. But I went there and I was taught discipline. So much so that when I returned, my first trip back home, my parents, my father, and the stepmother with whom I grew up, they were shocked at the transformation in such a short time. And that is why I continue to say that if the Youth Corps was necessary then, in the late 60s, we hadn't drugs and we hadn't all them things and so on. Now, with all the temptations and so on, and with the lack of discipline, it's something similar. Is even more necessary for the youths at this stage. Now we understand it clearly. Now I am firm in my belief in that because it changed me. It made me a better person, right? The opportunity was there. It made me a better person. But then it birthed into the national service. I know this government did away with the national service and all that. So you got a lot of young people running around the place, nothing to absorb them, to teach them discipline. When we went to the Youth Corps, it was discipline, and they taught you trade, carpentry, you did agriculture, you did electrical work, you did mechanical, all kind of things. You got an idea as to how those things were done, but with the short-sightedness of these people, you don't have them type of things. So I would always remember that the fourth intake of the Guyana Youth Corps, the fourth intake. We reached there, we assembled at Camp Ayangana. I'm not sure if it was Camp Ayangana then, GDF headquarters, a Friday, and then we set out we got uniform and all them type of things. The same military uniform we got as teenagers. So you can imagine the excitement. You got your boots and you got your denim pants and your OG pants and your mestin and all them, your duffel bag. and then they put you in the truck, and we were taken to, I think, well, them days was boat, and then train all the way to Porica, then the boat to Bartica, and then truck from Bartica to Chumachumari. Arriving there Sunday morning. Arriving there Sunday morning. Wonderful experience. Wonderful experience. Yeah, so I would never ever forget that. So that is why I wanted to talk about. And the next thing before I bring in Mr. Conway, I something I omitted on Wednesday. Wednesday was our 100th episode for the year 2025. Speaking out, I'm talking about 100. So today we're doing our 104th episode for Speaking Out for the year 2025. We're into season 4, and this is the 104th episode. So I think we got to give yourself a round of applause. We have been there. We have been enduring all the obstacles that are put in our way. We are able to overcome them. Yes, Sagi, I remember Sagi Jarvis saying that he was 50 take. They came in shortly after me. And even in the force, because when I joined in 74, in course 74, Sagi joined the same year, but course 75. Yeah, I remember those things, I'm still blessed with a good memory. And let me say this about the Youth Corps. The Youth Corps produced a lot of good people. In brilliant in offices, in the military, in the police. Lots of people, right? We got good grounding there. Louis Amsterdam and those people. He was the director. Frankie Gibbs and all those people. Keith Ross. That's some great men. Now I'm bringing Mr. Conway. See, our 104th episode, man.
Even before that, I'm happy that you joined on the 3rd, and not on the 5th, because you might have been associated with certain celebrations and certain people. But congratulations to us on our passing the century, 100 program, and that's good. And there are many more to go, So we continue. Nothing is going to prevent us. As long as God's will, we'll be there for many, many more.
Yeah. The God is going to guide us to be there for many, many more episodes. So keep doing the research and bring you the information. I want to, I understand that today is Teachers Appreciation Day. Today, the 3rd of October, is Teachers Appreciation Day, and I would like to show appreciation to all the teachers. All the teachers. They are the molders of the future. And of course, unfortunately, they are not given the type of respect. They're not given the type of compensation, reward, remuneration that they so justly deserve. Not so long ago, they had to strike for how many days and all of that to get a little something. It's a real disgrace. It's a real disgrace. But today is Teachers Appreciation Day, and I want us to show, all of us students, to show our appreciation to the teachers. But let me move on now to tell you about this. And I'm sure he might be on or you're going to be listening later. I want to compliment former Finance Minister Winston Jordan for that letter that he wrote in Stabrook News yesterday. I think it was published today too in Kaicho News. And what is this about? Mr. Jordan made a statement sometime last week or sometime recently dealing with the rice industry. And he was saying that given the problems they have now with the rice industry in terms of the farmers getting their paddy sold and so on. I saw a video. Somebody took out a video somewhere in the Essequibo Coast where you have dozens and dozens of trucks and trailers loaded with paddy. They claim that they're there for days. They can't get to deliver, to sell the paddies. And sometimes by the time they get to the silo or to the mill, the thing is downgraded and all of that. And Mr. Jordan made what I believe was a very wise recommendation. He said that the emphasis, especially the smaller farmers, should seek to diversify for the time or move away from move away from rice because it looked like the market is little depressed and so on. He made the thing. And the program, I have always encouraged you to look at Mr. Jordan on Thursdays on Guyana Morning Time, Comes TV. So he made that statement on some program he was on. And the Minister of Agriculture and someone of them, I think Sister Ryan Singh, somebody else come out, they're attacking Jordan. They're attacking Mr. Jordan for the statement that he made. And what I'm complimenting him on is his response in yesterday's, in the letter that he sent to the media, published yesterday in Stabrook News and today in Kaito News. And I would encourage all of you to read it. And I say this to you, Mr. Jordan, that is what you have to do. When you see you come out with their nonsense and the attacking, because I know in many cases, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, they look at the messenger, they don't listen to the message. They look at the messenger and they attack the messenger, not the message, because the message is sung, right? The message is sung. But I want to say this further. All like that letter that you wrote there, Mr. Jordan, I don't know what is the reach of the newspapers that it was sent, but something like that, you should record it. Just read it. Have it on social media so it can be shared and people can listen to you. People can listen. These things have got to be. And, you know, I said very educational, Mr. Gordon. What I like about Mr. Jordan is that he don't understand. He give you details. He give you facts. The man is a mathematician. The man is an economist. So the man has give you detail, figures. Stats don't lie. I mean, it can be manipulated, but when you give numbers and figures, they don't lie. But they just come and they just attack and they say all sorts of things. And they can't give no figure for support the argument. So again, Mr. Jordan, congratulations to you. And I say my recommendation is that you don't leave it just to the letter to the editor, right? Perhaps make a recording of that very, very letter that you wrote, have it there on social media, have it circulated so that people can hear exactly what your argument, your sung argument is all about. I would recommend that. I will take the liberty. I will be presumptuous enough to recommend that to you. So again, congratulations. And I speak something more about something you said yesterday, a little later in the program. But let me bring in Mr. Conway. CC?
Yeah, I read him, and I don't miss Mr. Jordan, you know. I don't miss him, especially on Thursdays, you know, where, you know, he's factual, doing quite a lot of research, you know, and I'm happy that, you know, he's presenting things to us. And I know a bit about rice, you know. I grew up in a rice community. My father was a rice farmer, not on a large scale, but we don't know what's happening on the world market in terms of rice. I think there's a glut, and I think India is dumping a whole set of rice on the international market. So Mr. Jordan is there, and very, very relevant, the points that he has raised, and I hope that he will continue to bring certain issues to the front burner.
Yes, yes, and as I suspected, Mr. Jordan is on. And if you look, students, you'll see he made a comment that he's never backed down from the sycophants, masqueraders, and imposters, right? I like me, you can't back down from them because they'll jump up on the platform. You know, they got a lot of outlets, you know, DPI, NCN, they got a lot of outlets. So we have got to use the resources available to us to put the facts out there. As I have always said on this program, we put the facts, sensible people can read and understand exactly what is going on. So yes, but let me move on. Now, let me paraphrase this, not paraphrase, let me preface this by saying this. And you're gonna realize where I'm coming from shortly, right? I'm not a critic of the Guyana police force. Neither is Mr. Conway. We are not critics. We criticize, we call out corruption, we call out incompetence wherever we see it. It is the unfortunate truth that there's a lot of incompetence and corruption in the government, in the Guyana police force. Even now, the government themselves, people who represent the government, like the vice president and the president, they have come around to admitting that there's corruption. Whereas not so long ago, they used to do like the proverbial ostrich and hide the head, they bury the head in the sun and left the ass exposed. Now they have admitted. So they said they're going to form an anti-corruption unit. That is acknowledgement that you get corruption, right? And I say this because some people, they come out, they set out, they sycophants and they got thing, they come to attack and they come to attack and all this sort of thing. The most recent attacks stem from the letter that I wrote to the newspaper, Kaicho News, Stabrook News, about the highway. So one of the students on Wednesday, right? As I've said to you, when the program is finished, I don't normally read the comments. I may glance when CC is on. I may glance to see what is being said and so on. I don't read because I find it can be distracting. So, but at the end of the program, I try to go through comments because apart from reading to hear what you are saying and to make notes in case I have to address anything, I also look to see if there are any improper racial remarks and all this to remove it, because the ERC would monitor. And on one occasion, they actually sent me some note about some comment that somebody made. And I always remember, if you that's so long ago, Kidaki Amsterdam is before the court because on his calling program, somebody called and made comments which the authorities feel were inappropriate and threatening to the president and so on. And they charge him criminally for it. So nobody has setting me up. I will go through and I will look at it. So when I went through on Wednesday, one of the students, I get a name, I'm not going to call him name, said that I behaving that as if corruption wasn't in the force when I was in the force. And those of you who have been around will know. I have always admitted that there's been corruption there in the force for the longest while. Maybe can't say all the time, but from the time I joined in 1974, there's always been allegations of corruption. The difference now is the scale, the frequency, the scale, and the persons against whom allegations are made. Back in the day, you would never hardly hear an allegation against senior officers and all this type of thing. You would hear some little constable or something take a money, and then and the next thing we got to remember in those days, how it was dealt with. Because once an allegation was made that a person took money, we used to call it demanding with menace, was the most prevalent charge once it was investigated. Right? Court, OPR and thing investigating, detectives from the division will investigate. People were policemen, they knew that when you hear people like Ignatius McCrae and Alvin Smith and Henry Chester and Vaughan and Gentle, and them men for your case, if you think you're gone, your goose cook. But now what happens? The allegations are made. Many of these allegations are not properly investigated. Everything is shut off. The OPR will investigate. And you don't hear anything further. So yeah, anyone who is on this program and have been listening to me for time will tell you, I have always admitted that there's been corruption in the force, like any other force. Because remember, corruption, don't put this narrow definition to corruption when a person only taking the money. As I gave the explanation not so long ago, it's not confined to just taking money. It's using your position to influence certain things. It's a lot of form corruption can take. A lot of form. And it has always been there. And I've said, not only in the police, but especially now in the government, credible allegations against the vice president, allegations against the president, allegations against senior police officers. And now we're saying that, look, you have a case now where, as we all know, a senior police officer, sanctioned by the U.S. to being a drug trafficker. You get Brutus, 252 charges before the court. So these are not make-up things, and I only give those two examples. Only recently too, I learned. We told you about we had a matter where at Parfait Harmony, where a policeman raped a young girl who was a teenager. She answered somebody went to get some bail money because somebody was in custody, and the man low she back and raped she. I learned that this week or last week, he's committed to stand trial at the High Court. So yes, it's how the matters are dealt with. Not no sweeping under the carpet. I don't know if some of you older people might remember this man, Mr. Alexander, Super Panic, they used to call him. When I joined, he had already retired, but then he was re-employed by Larry Lewis, and he was at OPR at some stage somewhere there. Man, you're afraid Because once they're investigating you, nobody are covering up nothing. And I said that is the big difference now. The big difference is the frequency of these allegations, credible allegations, and the manner in which it is dealt with by the administration. And I told you about those. Well, look, the commissioner, he came to $8.5 million. So yeah, corruption is there. So that is the problem. Is the levels. The levels is a big problem. When allegations are made against the commissioner, when allegations are made against divisional commanders, only today I was listening to a tape from a man in the Baltic area complaining, the man making allegations against the commander. And I learned as a young policeman, as a commander, that when something happens in the division and someone comes to you, the commander, and make a complaint, you must be able to deal with it and deal with it to the satisfaction of the people. Because in the division, you are basically the last resort. People must got to come to if they move from the division and go someplace else, it's because people realize that they're unreasonable. Not because you're not taking proper action. Not because you're not taking proper action, because we must admit that no matter what action you take, some people are going to feel dissatisfied. They're going to go to ministers, they're going to go to commissioner, they're going to go all over the place. But at the end of the day, you must be satisfied that you dealt with the matter in a very professional way. Let me bring in Mr. Conway. So I thought I'll mention that having regards to the comment by the student that we behaving as if corruption wasn't in the force when we were in the force. Go ahead, CC.
Well, corruption was there. It is here and will continue, but the magnitude of the corruption, when you get a commissioner putting it in writing that he accepted $8.5 million for a man's wedding and all kind of thing. We expect, and we know about corruption with driver's license, we know about corruption, we know about 2 million to get a gun license kind of thing. And I know about corruption, and I could tell you, as commander, you see division there, I charge a man for offering me a bribe. I can remember you charged me for offering me a bribe, and not only that, I went to court 34 times as an assistant commissioner. They're waiting for the day when I don't turn up. By then, I get transferred to Borbies, and they're saying, hey, I'm in Borbies, and I'm not going to come attend court. But I used to do good because I used to come the day before, I spend the next day, and then go back next day. So I used to get family time. 34 times as an assistant commissioner, and I testify, I gave evidence, and the lawyer cross-examined me, and he can't shift me, and he asked for an further date to further cross-examine me, and they bring up the matter between the time they set, and the man plead guilty, and they give him a fine. Why they mind? But I tell you, corruption has been there, and then you got to deal with corruption, it swiftly. I always remember when Timothy McVeigh bombed the Oklahoma City government building, state building. The president there was Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton said the evidence, the action that we're going to take is going to be swift, it's going to be certain, and it's going to be appropriate. And very shortly after the bombing, they find Timothy McVeigh. For the matter, they held him in relation to a traffic offense, and they backtrack and they got him, and they charge him swift action, appropriate charge, domestic terrorism, and the punishment was appropriate, death by lethal injection. And those were the words that I always remember, and I use when I dealing with corruption and other action. It must be swift, it must be certain, it must be appropriate. And corruption is there, and not only in the Guyana police force. I read a book some time ago, Power and Corruption in the NYPD. Power and corruption in the NYPD. So corruption, they're all over the place. But when you find it, when it's reported, the action has got to be swift, it got to be certain, and it got to be appropriate.
Yeah, swift, certain, appropriate. I myself, I mean, let me tell you something. My reputation preceded me. And nobody ain't taking no chance or offered me nothing. Gotta know, just find out who's the man, what the man is like. So my reputation preceded me. They didn't offer me. But at West Demerara, people like Ulrich and Kevin and all them remember, policeman from the Namsel station charge, set trap, charge, taking bribe. Get the next one at Vidinoop, charge, end up, you get 3 months in prison. Breakdown, you are the man who was a prosecutor, right? And that was a very egregious case because when this was a call name, but people are there know the story. A police woman's partner, significant other, get involved in some accident at the East Bank. And when the case was coming up, she was trying to see what help they can give him for get bail and so on. And the prosecutor demanded a sum of money for this man to go on bail, for him to go on bail. And she, at the time that policewoman was at police headquarters, she came to me almost in tears and complained. I said, we can set a trap. I called the detective and said, set a trap. Mark the money, gave it to the policewoman. And what made that case so egregious? Because the prosecutor sent the person of the other police to collect the money at the headquarters in the commissioner's building. She went to collect the money. And then you learn when you learn and need to mark money in the briefcase, and the man like he had a good day because there were thousands and thousands of big money, 90-something thousand, which was big money in them days. Yeah. So and you know, let me say this. I did what I had to do as a police and as a senior officer. I did what I had to do. Allegations of corruption is made, and I make sure that the correct action is taken. I have nothing to regret in that. I know, matter of fact, the one that and Kevin and Gaga, remember that? Because the one they tell me that I got passed at Denhamstel and what you and the family and them ain't gonna do and all them type of thing. That was around 93, 94. And I said, bring it on. I told them, I said, I am going to be passing there at a particular time. Y'all come. I to bring it on. Right? So again, this is how it is dealt with. You're going to have allegations, and people know. People who work with me know. I used to tell them. Right? I used to tell them. Once this corpse is something I abhor. Let me understand this thing clearly. Despite what they're trying to portray now, I have never been accused of corruption. Never. And not only not been accused, but when allegations were made, I ensured that appropriate action was taken. So much so police frightened. They let them police who work with me tell they're frightened and taking no chance. They're not taking chance. But now, because many of them, not all, but many of them are on the take. People know the nasty story. So they can't take no action. Monkey see, monkey do. Right? And we're going to talk about that a little while because, you know, the new minister, she had an interaction with the force I command on Wednesday. And we're going to talk about it. But I want to say to the new minister, there's a good start. You met with them and you laid down certain rules and so on. But as an experienced commander, let me tell you this, minister, and by extension, tell everybody, when you lay down them talk, you read the riot act, so to speak, the next thing is reinforcement, because a lot of them can sit down there, it go in 1 year, it's part through the next years. Many of them, especially those same people who were there, allegations are made against them. So they sit down there and ain't got nothing. I should tell them plain, I know enough of you believe I just talking. I just waited now for the first opportunity to make one and more y'all an example. Because that is what is going to atone. Example. So you go there, you talk, and you want to do this, you want that, and thing. They sit down very stoically, and they listen to you. You have got to now make sure that for the time the first report come to you, you deal with it in such a manner that a message is sent. So they know it's not only talk you're talking, but you're going to walk the walk. But Minister, I wish you well. As I've said before, I wish you well. I said before too that you are fortunate, Minister. You are fortunate in that you have a very low bar to jump, to cross. The bar at the ministry day with your predecessor was set so low that you should be able to go over that very, very easily, right? Very easily. But you have got to put your own mechanisms in place. If you attempt to just go with what you meet there, you are going to run into a lot of problems because the corruption They're right in your office, in the building at least. So I say in the office, I mean at Home Affairs. Allegations, credible allegation of corruption coming out right there. So you have got to make your assessment. I mean, you're legally trained, you are a magistrate, and you ought to be able to make your assessment and know what we're talking about. Know what we are talking about. Don't take chances with none of them. Do like what Vic Smith reported, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, that a deputy commissioner, he said, make a statement that he ain't drinking, he got 18 more months in the work, and he ain't taking chance to drink from nobody for the poison. I found that very amusing. That is what is being reported by Big Smith Newswatch. That anybody asking who is the deputy commissioner, who is the deputy commissioner. I said, well, I don't know. Big Smith didn't mention name, but I know the deputy commissioners. And by a process of elimination, I think I know who would make such a statement. Tribal union. Tribal union. Remember that tribal union story? I said, let me say this before I bring in CC. I genuinely wish the minister well. I genuinely wish the minister has perhaps the most difficult portfolio in the government, most difficult. That's security with the police, the fire, prison, Kanu, the most difficult by far. And she came from tourism to this is a big leap. The goodwill, I believe the general goodwill is going to be on your side. You have, like most people, a honeymoon period. Your honeymoon period is likely you're going to be watched very closely during the honeymoon period. You're going to see which direction you're going, right? And that will determine perhaps how your entire tenure will go. Very early, they're going to look to see all sort of things going to come. When I take over command, the first thing the police has come to tell you, and I'm sure you go places, minister, they're going to come to bring people. Let me introduce you to this good person. That is how they describe them. I'm going to introduce you to this. This is a good man. This is a good woman. He's a friend of the police. Be careful. I used to tell them, don't introduce nobody to me. I'm going to know who, in time, I'm going to know who are the good people, who are the not so good people. I will know who are the friends of the police and so on. Because invariably, when they come and they tell you what this is a good man, there's some damn criminal, some crook they line themselves with, they're bringing to introduce to you. They're bringing to introduce some crook to you. That has been my experience. Let me bring in CC. CC, I said that we said we wish the minister well, and I sure you would want to wish her well too.
Yeah, you spoke for me because we want to wish her well. She has a difficult task, but she started to play some, using cricket in terms, she played a couple of good strokes, but it's not only the strokes, it's the follow through. So we're looking for the follow through after the strokes.
Yeah. I see a student saying we shouldn't wish them well. Well, there's you. You can decide not to wish them well. But I'm not wishing them. I'm wishing the minister because I believe that Home Affairs is such a serious and important portfolio, something that I know of, security and policing, and I believe that it is, as a patriotic citizen, I should wish her well in her endeavors. But at the same time, as you would have heard, I am cautioning that one misstep can cause you your whole reputation to go. As you have indicated to the police on Wednesday, reputation and integrity and all those things are very, very important. I understand what the student is saying too, because you are in a position there where maybe you are surrounded by a lot of influential people in the government who might want to reach in, and influence the decisions in your ministry. Because I see that, let's be straight up and honest. The fact that they put your predecessor, who is a failure, Ropeseman, failed in the ministry, they move him as minister, but then they put him there as a senior advisor to you. What are they telling you there? What can he advise you on? If he was that good, why did they remove him? These are questions that have to be asked, so that we don't let emotions jump into the thing. If the minister I mean, if they had an old scale movement of minister, we can say, well, they're moving everybody, right? But most of the ministers retain their positions. So one has to assume, quite reasonably, that those who were moved because they're unsatisfied without their performing, they're satisfied without their performing, and then they left them, like they left Pelori Joe at the Ministry of Labor to advise the minister. Then they left Ben at the Home Affairs to say he's a senior advisor. Advise on what? A person who failed in the ministry can advise? Well, you can advise. So that is the type of, those are the pitfalls you have to be cautious of. Let me move on and deal most substantively with the meeting that the minister had on Wednesday with the police. And here the police is your release. I like read these things, Police, Home Affairs Minister meets police tabras. Earlier today, Wednesday, the 1st of October 2025, Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Honig Waldron, met with the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Clifton Aiken, along with the senior command team of the Ghana Police Force. During the very interactive engagement, officers discussed and familiarized the minister on the objectives, activities, and roles of policemen and women within the Ghana Police Force, and vice versa. The minister outlined our vision for the Ghana Police Force. Accompanying the minister was the PS. Now, the first thing when I see this thing, I say, a minister coming to have a meeting with the top brass of the commission of the police force, a minister of Home Affairs, and they're telling me that this interactive engagement and the top brass advised the minister about the objectives, activities, and role of policemen or women. What nonsense this is that? You want to tell me a person who is put there as minister, person who was a lawyer, person who was a magistrate, and know the role and objectives of the police thing. So that's the first thing I see. I can't help seeing these things, I can't help see these things. The most senior level in the force, the minister is having the first meeting, and they're telling us that they advised her, and the minister to order this officers discussed and familiarized the minister on the objectives, activities, and roles of police women and men in the Ghana Police Force, and vice versa. You know what vice versa mean in this sense? I don't know. Because you're saying during the very interactive engagement, officers discussed and familiarized the minister on the objectives, activities, and roles of policemen and women within the Ghana Police Force, and then they say, and vice versa. So the minister advised them too on the roles. That's what you're suggesting. They always write a lot of stupidness, and nobody vets these things. And every time I see it, I'm gonna call you all out. I'm gonna call. Yeah, I might be a stock record, but I believe in standards, and I believe stupidness like this should not go into the public domain. It's either they don't know or they don't care, and I believe perhaps it's a combination of both. They may know because you're gonna say the ministers familiarized on the objectives of policemen and women, and vice versa. You know what I mean, vice versa? Let me bring in CC, man. And then I'm going to deal with that matter in more depth. CC, and then that's the issue, the statement that they issue aggravated me.
I wonder if they advise the minister on the shooting of Sergeant Vaughan over 500 days ago. I wonder if they advise the minister about Adriana Young's story. I wonder if they advise the minister about persons who die in their lockups at Lethem, at Parafeta, Barmini, at number 51 police station, person who die at the Rumville police station. I wonder if they advise the police about Sergeant at Fredenhope, who was allegedly involved in a series of break and enter and larceny. I wonder if they advise the minister about Sarah, who was fingered by the United States in terms of drug trafficking. I wonder if they advise the minister about Mandel, who's on administrative leave, a man who said that, hey, according to their information, that they saw her boarding a vehicle, a black and red Ram, and leaving the location. I wonder if they advised the minister about financial irregularities. I wonder if they advised the minister about the shooting to death the two persons at Myconi, where they alleged that two persons, two sergeants, discharged a firearm, and one was promoted very shortly after. I wonder if they advised the minister about the then second in command of Borbis, who after a bar hopping activity was involved driving his car in a fatal accident at Borbis, not too far from the hospital, where a motorcyclist died on the spot, and about 2 days afterward, he was twice then transferred from Borbis as IC Region 8 and then promoted. I wonder if they advise the minister about those things. And I wonder if they advise the minister about gun runnings, about persons paying $2 million and getting a driver license, a firearm license at no report going to the Ministry of Affairs and to the firearm board. I wonder what really get. I don't know what really they advise them. And I could call many other matters, but let me stop it there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I couldn't tell she everything, but I would think that rather than telling her how the force function, how policemen and policemen were, that should have taken some prominence. Now, and you talk about Vaughn, 550 days today since Sergeant Vaughn was killed, they say by accident. 550 days, and we're hearing nothing. Those are the things that should brief the minister on. Those are the things that should brief the minister on. Well, let me say this. God, every now and again, they'll send out them for come to try to intimidate you. Well, let me tell you something. I cannot be intimidated. By now, they have to know that. But some of them stupid, right? Not stupid. Some of them stupid. So they really can't understand that you cannot intimidate me. Why? Because let me quote U.C. Anderson. He said, "Let it be known to all and sundry. I fear not yesterday, not tomorrow, not today, and not ever any creature known to man, irrespective of the office they hold. I am not possessed of a spirit of fear." Let me understand this thing clear. Why you are not fearful, they will ask? Because the worst they can do to you, as they have been planning to do to me, is to kill you. And as I've said, the fear of death is perhaps the most irrational fear a human being has, because we all have to die. And if we all have to die, then why are you fearful of death? You know something that is inevitable. It has to happen, right? So I am frightened them. And I said this, it's only Jehovah will determine that time. When the good Lord says time for you to go, you have to go. You can't run a night. And I get a strong suspicion. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds, but none of them might crop out before me. None of them. And I am much older. I am enjoying my 70th year. The good Lord has spared my life to see the biblical age of 70. And I want to go far long more. But that is not going to deter me from coming here and speaking the truth and calling out corruption when I see it, wherever it is. I am not going to be afraid. They would have sit down back in 2021, right? 2021, it was the first time that I got word that they were going around and seeking people from the underworld to shut up slow. And I spoke about it publicly, right? And the Attorney General, Anil Nandalal, SC, MP, made a statement that Slow only seeking attention. I go call because the record, me give him records. He said, I'm seeking attention. That is why I'm making a statement that people trying to kill me. And then on the East Coast at a particular bar, I get the name of the bar, I get the time, I get the place, I get the people who are there. They sit down and they say, they got to make Slow another Courtney Crummy Ring. You know, Courtney Crummy Ring was assassinated at Diamond, right? And several persons were questioned, including Kwame McCoy, the minister. He was arrested and questioned in connection with that. And a lot of other people's names were called in that. So, but that gonna scare me. That gonna scare me. That will frighten y'all because all the money where y'all thieving, you want around to spend it. You want to be around to spend all the money that y'all thieving. But there is a God. Many of y'all don't believe. You don't believe, but I believe that there is a God. right? And man does appoint, God does disappoint. You watching y'all, man, the time gonna come, right? Your time gonna come. Some of y'all time gonna come sooner than you expect, right? But the time will come. The time will come. Now let me come to the state, we come back to the minister. The minister, as we said when they Wednesday, and she interacted with the top brass, they said the ELT, the executive leadership team, and the commanders. That is what I said, right? Then they say the command, this is HDP reporting today. She said, Waljon warns police leadership, quote, the people will not wait, and neither will I. That is the headline. And then the story is not too long, so I'm going to read it to you. Minister of Home Affairs Onij Waldron today delivered a blistering ultimatum to the leadership of the Ghana Police Force, demanding an immediate and uncompromising crackdown on corruption and a complete overhaul of internal discipline. Addressing the force's executive leadership team and commanders, Waldron made it clear that despite record government investment in technology and training since 2020, resources alone will not save the institution. Quote, resources alone cannot protect the reputation of this institution. Only integrity, discipline, and leadership can, end of quote, the minister warned. In a forceful mandate on corruption, Waldron demanded, quote, zero tolerance, end of quote, for misconduct, telling the commanders, quote, corruption must be dealt with firmly. Do not look the other way. Be fearless in confronting it, end of quote. She underscored that the failure of discipline at the top will inevitably lead to collapse throughout the ranks, making leadership by example non-negotiable. She stated plainly, quote, if discipline is weak at the top, it will collapse below. Tighten discipline, strengthen performance, and rebuild trust, end of quote. The minister stressed that with Guyana facing new and emergent challenges, including complex border security issues, increased global connectivity, and the demands of a rapidly growing economy, the commanders must ensure that government resources translate into visible public safety. She demanded an outcome where communities feel safe, criminals feel the full weight of the law, and the police uniform, quote, once again commands pride and respect, end of quote. Affirming that public safety and trust depends entirely on their effectiveness, Minister Waldron delivered a final unambiguous warning, quote, this is the moment for decisive leadership. The people will not wait, and neither will I, end of quote. Waldron concluded by pledging our unwavering personal support as the force works to build a professional, respected, and trusted service rooted in integrity, discipline, and accountability. That is what the thing say. Now, they got a lot to say based on what I just read. There's a lot to analyze. And therefore, let me bring in TC first, and then we're going to come back to some of the words, some of the very important words. She talked about discipline, she talked about integrity, she talked about leadership, accountability. All those words were mentioned in this release, and we're gonna look at it. CC, let me hear you.
Yeah, the minister actually read the right act to them in terms of indiscipline, in terms of corruption. And we can't hide, because corruption is there, indiscipline is there. But the minister might run into some problems when she wants to deal with corruption, because we had the extended outgoing squatter collected $8.5 million, and Jack Dio said it was reprehensible, full stop.
And let me also make it clear here today that this government never sanctioned a policy where private individuals and businessmen could pay for the birthdays and weddings of policemen or other public officials. In fact, we think it's reprehensible. It's reprehensible.
Reprehensible, and the guy is still there. And was it by there because Rambo Sue made the allegations against Jack Dio and nothing was done. No investigation was done, so she gonna run up to me and let me see. I can't say she get balls, but she gotta be a real strong leader to deal because she got to deal with Jack Dio and so many things, happening in the force. So many things happening in the force and nothing is being done. As I said earlier, I want to wish her well. And, things happening and they're not listening, or they're listening and they're not taking any action. Persons who want to speak out, there's something called a code of silence. And the code of silence encouraging people not to speak up when they see another person doing something wrong. We had it with Bascon. He broke the code of silence, and what happened to him? He get a cybercrime charge. And not only that, the extended squatter and his crime chief rush with breakneck speed and held a press conference, a horrible attempt they made. And they want to belittle Bascom. They didn't do like what the United States did when we had Swapico broke the code of silence and they took him on. They had the NAPS commission and he shook the very foundation of the NYPD. Shook the foundation of the NYPD, a sergeant just like Bascom. So I hope that the minister will take them on and ensure that those acts of corruption and indiscipline be dealt with. But I hope also the minister will ensure, because you can't deal with discipline, inspectors and upwards, when you don't have a police service commission. There is no police service commission since May, and they can't get no one because there's no parliament, and it calls for parliamentary procedure. I hope she will run with that she would influence the president to ensure that there is a police service commission to deal with discipline, and also that they would swear persons who would be empowered to deal with discipline, to deal with disciplinary matters, and also they be trained. I know we're going to train them to inquire into disciplinary matters. There are so many things there, that coming into play if you want to deal with discipline. First, you got to get a police service commission to deal with inspector upwards, and then you have the commissioner can deal with sergeant downwards. So there are many issues that got to be dealt with, and the minister has got to run in. She got to run with the ball. She got to run with the ball to ensure, but it is not an easy task because corruption they high in the government, and if you are corrupt, I know they're going to deal with members of the Guyana Police Force.
Well, let me say this. Well said, but let me say this. Not only having a police service commission, but a police service commission that is not just a rubber stamp, right? Because the one that just finished there, the one that succeeded us, rubber stamp. You have so many issues that we can highlight. Rubber stamp, right? So much so that even in August of this year, y'all remember, student? The Police Service Commission made promotions in February of this year, the least promotions. And then when the president had his, what they call, well, he said you get the vision. It's really a nightmare. In late July, went to police there. They promoted a whole set of people to inspector and all sort of thing. Police Service Commission, whose life had ended some time ago, had no legal authority to make any promotion. I know what I said. Oh, they had made the promotion. They had some months before, but somehow miraculously it wasn't announced until the president intervention. Dishonest. And to think that the man who heads the Police Service Commission is said to be a bishop, could not be a religious bishop, has to be a blasted chessboard bishop, right? No integrity, none. So that's only about having a commission. It's about having a commission that is independent, having a commission that understands what is going on. They could say what they want to say. I boast and I brag that our commission from 2018 to 2021 was the most impactful. So much so that the president went and violated the Constitution to have us removed. And I'm going to address that at the next episode because he gave a statement the other day there and he talked about respecting the Constitution and all that. I can remind them. But that is for another day. So you have to have a commission. And the one before us, I was privy to a report where investigation was done following allegations that monies were paid. Not to everybody, because you had reputable people on that commission. The one before us. Reputable people. But particular individual collecting money to promote people. You have the case, and the records are there. So we ain't just talking where a man was promoted to inspector. He retired now, right? Promoted to inspector. And then the commissioner at the time, the commissioner's friend, going to tell you something about the man who got promoted to inspector. Commissioner in turn spoke to the chairman of the Police Service Commission. He took back the promotion. And when an investigation was done, they found out that the allegations against the man with some civil matter was false. So all them type of thing happened. And I get the report, we get the cargage black and white to support what I'm saying. So you need to get a credible police service commission. People who are independent, people who understand, and nobody with the secretary who are down there. He is a LB as well. Disappointing. All them years he did down there. Right? All them years. He had no crap. So yeah, and then she spoke about transparency. Minister, the police force now is perhaps the least transparent force, or don't let me put the whole force, the executive leadership team and the commission, then perhaps the least transparent. In all the years that they have there, the only press conference they called was when Ikin and Blanham called a press conference to debunk the allegation that Boss come in. And that, as CC said, backfired spectacularly. They got commissioner of police, all sort of thing happening. And he can't face up to the press to answer questions. And then they use the word transparency. It is so annoying. It is so ridiculous to hear them using the word transparent when they are the least transparent people you have. So transparency, Minister, you talk about accountability, very, very important. And accountability is not only for the constable down at the bottom. Accountability goes to all the levels that must be made accountable. But they are not. They are not, because if they were accountable, we would have heard something about the death. What is the position with the death of Sergeant Vaughan? Something they would have faced, whatever difficulty they may have. They would have been able to tell the public what has happened. And there's so many other. Look, for example, we learned about the cocaine at police headquarters at Turnflower. Apart from the initial thing that said OPR investigating, no accountability, no transparency, you need anything further. SAR gets sanctioned by the U.S. government for being a drug trafficker. Mandel gets sent on leave for covering up murder of Adriana Young. What we are hearing, the public can hearing anything more. And then when you think you're attacking, you're not attacking, you're exposing these things. You're exposing these things. You have all of those things. So don't talk about, when you come to the discipline, let me say this to you, Minister. The discipline in the force, and when I say the discipline as outlined by the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701, an act that I know very well. Very well. I study it. I practiced it. Right? Know it very well. The problem that you have now is that 99.9% of the people and the people who are to be involved, and there's some sergeant up to the commissioner, they don't know the A's from the R's, they don't know the procedure. They don't know. And I could tell you that as a sergeant, the law permits you to investigate. You got to be of the rank of sergeant and above to investigate. So you got to know to investigate a disciplinary matter. And the investigation, the process is not the same as when you're investigating a criminal matter. You got to know that. Conducting an inquiry, how to conduct a disciplinary inquiry. The people don't know. The people don't know. And even the people who they put to say they can teach them, they don't know too. So if you don't know how you're going to teach. If you don't know how you're going to teach. There are several attempts to set a whole in courses for disciplinary procedure. And right in the courses, big dispute, the people who there, who know a little bit, calling out the people who are supposed to be doing the presentation or the lecturers, calling them out. One of the last interaction I had with the force with that, because people said that I was always knowledgeable in that process. I was deemed at one stage, they called me the chief magistrate for police headquarters, because all them cases I used to try. And I think it was Ramnarayan, who was kind of the functions of the commissioner, invited me to make do a presentation to them. I did it at the officers training thing there. We walked through the law, walked through the constitution and all this type of thing. And then they invited me for second bout, which shocked me with sergeants and inspectors. They full up the whole auditorium, man. They full up the whole auditorium, 100 or something people here. And I think that was the last time I had that type of interaction with them. But you have to get people who know to teach. So the discipline has broken down. So what happens, as I've said before, Minister, you can investigate this too. Don't listen to Slow and Conway. Get independent investigators. I am saying that most of the matters that you're going to DPP or going to OPR might recommend or send it to the DPP. DPP might recommend disciplinary action in many cases. Nothing happens. I did the survey. Nothing happens. Check. They're gonna provide you with what is called as force orders. I think it's part 2, deals with punishment and so on. You're gonna see absent from duty, 99% of the matters that are published, absent from duty. So them neglect and all them things we just complain about. They ain't going no place. You had the ridiculous case, Minister, as a former magistrate, you could understand this more than most, where a sergeant charged with neglected duty. Sergeant, he was on the East Coast. Charged with neglected duty. Trial start. The virtual complainant refused to attend the orderly room to give the evidence. And the young officer, quite rightly, accepted the no-case submission and recommended that the matter should be dismissed, because even though he's an inquiring officer, the procedure is the disciplinary authority who is the commander. Got to make that decision. He sent it to the commander. No virtual complainant, no evidence. Commander found the man guilty and finally 1 day spare. Never forget that. The commander found him guilty, finally 1 day spare in the absence of any evidence at all. And you know how we got to know about it? Because when the time came for promotion, the man was not recommended for promotion, and they claimed that he had a disciplinary conviction. And CC was the man at the commission. When you went through it, he said, look at this. When we look at it, man should have never been convicted. Never, ever been convicted, because cowboy, you don't know. You know. That is what, so at the commander level, that was going on. And I dare them, I challenge them. Find out how many commanders have inquired into disciplinary matters and so on. If they inquire, check to see the quality of their work. All this part of the problem. So what they do, they shy away. They don't know what to do, so they shy away. They stay away from it. And therefore, there's no discipline. People do all kinds of things and get away with it. We got to understand that, Minister, there's a reality. And the minister said discipline is weak at the top. I love that. first of all, she said corruption must be dealt with firmly. Do not look the other way. Be fearless in confronting it. But they can't. Many of them can't because they themselves are corrupt. Remember we said, by definition, corrupt is not only taking money. Not only taking money, it's a wider definition for corruption. And if you apply the wider definition, many of them are corrupt and compromised. So they really can't do nothing. They can't do nothing. Then the minister went on to say, corruption will be dealt with firmly and do not look the other way and all. Good, good. If discipline is weak at the top, it will collapse below. If discipline is weak at the top, if you got a commissioner of police taking $8.5 million in his office from a businessman, what you expect down at the bottom? What gonna happen down at the bottom? What is gonna happen? And then the man admitted in a statement that that is his policy. He had this stakeholders policy for collect money from businessmen and other people, his friends, to finance weddings and birthdays and anniversaries and so on. That is what you have. That is what you have. And so therefore, monkey see, monkey do. Monkey sue. And then the minister goes on to say, you got to strengthen performance and rebuild trust. Well, that ain't easy to be rebuild trust because it's every day you're hearing allegations about some corrupt act, and then you hear that the people who are in charge are not taking proper action. Those things erode trust. Those things erode trust. People got to trust the command structure. You got to trust these people. So if they get satisfaction at the bottom, they can come at some middle level or some higher level, and the matter should be properly dealt with. And let me again, I say many times people come to the police commander or sub-regional commander, they have some unreasonable expectation. But it's you have a responsibility to explain to them why certain things that they might want to have done can be done. You as a commander, that is subdivisional and station level, that would say, look, we can't do that because of so. For example, regular nice nuisance. Somebody called nice nuisance, right? All right, you might go warn the person. They want them charged and all. You gotta let them know that we can't charge unless you're prepared to give a statement and to go to court if it comes to that. You got to do that. You got to explain that to them. But they don't do that. They don't do that. Then the minister went on to say, once again, you got to command with pride and respect. Well, that is our uphill task, to command with pride and respect when you have a lot of them there have no pride and have no respect for themselves and the profession. None. Then she went on here to say, this is a moment for decisive leadership. The people will not wait and neither will I. Wonderful statement. The people are impatient because so many things are happening. And all they come and they cover up and a lot of talk and no action. Look how many matters you get. Enough talk and no action. Enough talk. So, Minister, yes. Yes. It is good to have gone there. It is good to tell them what you believe in and what you want to see from a policy perspective. But then you can't just be talk. Now that you have talked the talk, you have to walk the walk. And let me say this before I move on. There's something else I want to talk about, the same bribery story and so on. But the thing is, you have to. I got sidetracked there a bit. Let me say this, Minister. All that you have said there speaks to your concern about what is going on, and perhaps suggesting that they should be reformed. It should be reformed, long overdue. But I've said it again. I've said it before. I'm repeating it now again. That the police force, the Ghana police force, cannot be reformed with some of the people you have in senior positions there, including the commissioner. Can't reform. Can't, right? And this is not being biased. This is being practical, realistic. Check the track record. How are you going to reform them type of thing when people have no confidence in them? The public, the general public, ain't got no confidence in them, right? And then you might want to know where you're going to get people from and all of that. It is time, I have said this too before, that the government look at other models of managing the force. Take a look at some of the Caribbean countries. They had different models. Jamaica, Trinidad, Antigua, remember well, model being bringing in some qualified foreign people to assist in this reform process. That is something that perhaps is needed now more than ever. You can't just give, as my Australian classmate used to say, dead man boots. So when somebody move on, you just put whoever is there into the thing, whether they qualify or not. You can't keep doing that and hope to bring about the desired change, because everybody anxious for change to the better in the police force. The police force is such an important institution that people are clamoring for change. People want to see professionalism. And I talk about people, the average person on the road, not some of the government ministers and them. They want to see that more professionalism, because that would erode their influence. But all of that you have to look in. So they don't come and tell you what happened. All right, you get this body, dead man boots, the body move on, you go into boots, and whether they're competent or not. You have so many incompetent people in senior positions, it ain't funny. It ain't funny. Because they themselves, this is something you must look at too. They themselves put out criteria for promotion to ranks from deputy superintendent to commissioner. And if you examine that, very few who have been promoted have met the criteria. Very few. But they put them out there. They put them out that this is what you got to get a deputy superintendent and right through to commissioner. They put out a document some years ago, right? And the own document that they put out, they don't bother with it. So all them things you have to look at. Let me bring in Mr. Conway, and then we're gonna, there's another issue dealing with corruption and talk about. CC.
Yeah. I listened to I read the statement from the police, and I didn't get the impression that they informed the minister how they would really deal with the police strategically. The police gave what we call a so-called strategic plan, where they cut and paste, they plagiarize, and their strategic plan is 2022, 2026. Next year is 2026. And I can't remember hearing or seeing a milestone that they achieve. Now and again, the confirmed squatter would talk about the police strategic plan. Brutus used to say now and again. But it is not known. Ask the same executive leadership team about the strategic plan, and they really can't tell you. Ask the branch commandos, they can't tell you. Ask the sub-unit officer, they can't tell you. Ask the station sergeant, they can't tell you. Ask the sub-unit officer, they can't tell you. Ask the constable, they can't tell you. That if you have a strategic plan, all must know about it. All must know about it. There's that strategic plan 2022 to 2026, and you don't get nothing that they really achieve. I remember Captain Simmons put up a strategic plan 2011-20 to 2015, but they talk about some risk management, and I want to share these here with the minister. Some of the things that they talk about. They talk about it in 2011, and it's really impacting now on 2025 and onwards. And let me read some of it. Hear what they say. The risk. There will be a lack of suitable equipment for officers of the Ghana Police Force to meet new and emerging challenges. Example, increased manpower, air capacity, improved vehicles. 2. The Ministry of Home Affairs does not have a strategic plan to give overall guidance to the Guyana Police Force. 3. Managers of the GPF will not be equipped to deal with new and emerging challenges arising from modernization. 4. There will be insufficient planning to ensure that skilled resources are in place to deal with the plan. 5. Staff may be resistant to change so that activities outlined in the plan may not be achieved or will have to be delayed. 6. Alleged and perceived corruption within the GPF will adversely affect the plan, the public trust, and confidence in the police. Let me read over. Alleged and perceived corruption within the GPF will adversely affect the public trust and confidence in the police force. Insufficient human resource will be made available to the police to implement the plan. 8. An increase, and this is important, an increase in the economy of Guyana may increase the demands of the GPF, which cannot be managed with existing resources. And this one, there will be implications of the nature and type of criminality in Guyana as a result of an increase in the population and or the influence of non-Guyanese nationals. These are some things that the Cabinet Simmons had written about, and they're coming back to haunt us. So the plan that the police got now, they talk about operational priorities, they talk about people, they talk about partnership, they talk about performance, and they talk about infrastructure, and they talk about accountability. These are things that the strategy that the Cabinet Simmons had mentioned, and we didn't look at them. They didn't look at them. Therefore, the plan that the police got, the strategic plan or the so-called plan that they got, cannot work or will not work. It would be adversely affected. And they're saying their plan is 2022 to 2026. Next year is 2026, and they have not achieved anything. I hope that the minister will get together and come forward with a strategic plan. A strategy from now to next year, maybe January, to come up with a strategic plan to deal with the Guyana police force. And I hope that she put her heads together and she deal with some experts so that you have a real strategic plan from 2026 dealing with the Guyana police force.
That is so necessary. So I don't know the Capital Simmons report. I have a copy somewhere because they had recommended the flattening of the structure because they looked at it comprehensively. They looked at it the whole structure of the police force. Instead of flattening the structure, they have been making it taller. The police force, the Ghana police force, as one of the tallest structures you could think about in terms of forces of that size. Because the time they had said a force of that size, right, there was no need for 4 deputy commissioners and 12. They had said so, 12 assistant commissioners. They recommended how it should go, but instead of that, we increasing it, man. We increased it all for political reasons and for political control and to buy votes. That is what they did. Destroying the organization, nearsightedness, and destroying the organization. That is what we have. They don't want to hear the truth, but that is the truth, the old truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. It is the truth. And let me tell you this. They have some of the saner ones. No, and would admit that what we're saying is true. They know and would admit that what we're saying. But again, they're like the messenger, so they tend to forget the message. And when you talk about bribery and corruption, yesterday's Kaicho News, the editorial there, I'm going to read it. The Ghana police force, long hobbled by its own infirmities, has now declared war on bribery. In doing so, the force has urged citizens not to offer bribes to ranks. On the surface, it sounds like a noble call, a step towards cleansing the institution of one of its most corrosive afflictions. But as with many pronouncements coming from the leadership of the Ghana Police Force, citizens have greeted this call with skepticism, and rightly so. For decades, the Ghana police force has limped under the weight of its own corruption. The force, by many accounts, is suffering from a pathological sickness. The sum of individual wrongdoings has dragged down an institution that should stand as a defender of law and order, but is instead staggering like a patient on life support. Bribery is among the most common symptoms of this disease, so widespread that it has become almost institutionalized. Ask any motorist in this country, and they will recount stories of being stopped by traffic ranks and either pressured into paying or openly soliciting for a bribe. The latest declaration of, quote, war on bribery, end of quote, comes after years of documented misconduct, from the massive driver's license examination scam unearthed last April to smaller daily acts of petty corruption. Whether it is a cancellation of traffic tickets, the fractionation, the thing blurred a little bit here, the facilitation of drug shipments, or the falsifying of reports. The Ghana police force has been caught too many times with its hands dirty. In such an environment, citizens can be forgiven for doubting whether this war will be any different from the others that were announced with great fanfare and then quietly abandoned. Yet, even in this limping state, the police force cannot be discarded. Guyana needs its police. Without it, there is only chaos. The unhappy truth places citizens in a dilemma, forced to rely on an institution that repeatedly betrays its oaths, while knowing that the very officers tasked with enforcing the law may themselves be participants in law breaking. The reality makes the call to citizens not to offer bribes both ironic and troubling. Bribery, after all, is already a crime. If it is punishable by law, it should not require a special plea from the police leadership for citizens to refrain from committing an offense. What it truly required is for the police to enforce the law without fear or favor, beginning with their own ranks. The very fact that the Ghana police force feels compelled to beg citizens not to tempt officers with bribes is in itself a damning indictment of the institution's weakness. It reveals not strength, but fragility. The truth, uncomfortable as it may be, is that bribery thrives in an environment of mistrust and desperation. Many officers are underpaid, and many citizens, wary of harassment or fearful of trumped-up charges, find it easier to slip a few $1,000s in a waiting palm than to endure hours at a station or months in court. The vicious cycle has created a culture where bribery is seen less as a crime and more as a transaction, ordinary, expected, and even convenient. To break the cycle, both sides must change. Citizens must recognize that offering a bribe only fuels the very corruption that makes their lives harder. A bribe may buy temporary relief, but it strengthens a system that will continue to oppress and exploit. At the same time, the Ghana Police Force must show by its action, not its rhetoric, that it is serious about rooting out corruption. Outfitting immigration officers with body cameras, as was recently announced, is one step in the right direction. But cameras alone cannot cleanse a culture. What is needed is a relentless commitment to discipline, transparency, and accountability. Officers caught soliciting or accepting bribes must face swift and public consequences. The Ghana government also has a role to play. Low pay and poor working conditions have been cited time and time again as drivers of corruption. It is disingenuous to demand integrity from men and women who can barely feed their families. If the Ghana Police Force is to be reformed, it must start with ensuring that officers are compensated fairly and trained rigorously so that the temptation to take bribes is lessened and the courage to resist them is strengthened. Ultimately, however, the responsibility cannot rest on the shoulders of the force alone. A corrupt police force does not exist in a vacuum. It reflects a corrupt society. Too often, it is ordinary Guyanese who, instead of demanding justice and accountability, offer bribes to evade responsibility. The man who slips money the man who slips money to avoid a traffic ticket is no less guilty than the officer who accepts it. Both feed the rot that has crippled the Guyana police force. The war on bribery, then, must be a war fought on two fronts. The police must clean their own house, and citizens must stop furnishing it with bribes. This is not simply a matter of law enforcement, but of national survival. A limping police force is already dangerous. A corrupt one is lethal. The Guyana police force has declared war. It is now for citizens to decide whether they will be part of the problem or part of the solution. That was a long read, but I think you understand. Very important read. We're talking about corruption. We cannot, I say again, deny the fact that it is rampant. Even the government seems now to be admitting it is there. And we all have a part to play. This thing where you're telling civilians don't give bribe, don't take, deal with the ranks. And I agree. People got to be remunerated better. And not only in terms of salaries, allowances. And car allowance, I think I understand the same thing. The highest grade car allowance is $21,642 if you get a grade allowance. And that was since I was in the force over 15 years ago. $21,642. I remember the number properly. By the time of education allowance, $50 and $100 and $60. Those are the things you got to look at if you want to encourage people. Look at your entry standard. Look at your entry standard. Who you're bringing into the job. Not so long ago, the other man who can people that he's a doctor, the man get taken the force. I expect that I know he should be at least a superintendent. Man is a con man. Can't remember the man's name. Yeah, I remember the man. The man was getting himself in trouble. Where he can people that he's a doctor. He wearing stethoscope and he wearing white gown. The man is a police. Obviously, he doesn't have the integrity and the character to be a policeman. Obviously. Right? Obviously. So those are some of the things they have to look at. So I agree fully with this editorial. And it is there, as I've said. You can go read it. This Skycho News editorial yesterday. So these are things you have to look at. Let me bring in CC to deal with this, and then we can move to the next subject. Time catching up with us. Yeah, CC, the editorial. What are your take?
I like some words in the editorial. Here's a limping police force is always dangerous, and a corrupt one is lethal. A limping police force is always dangerous. A corrupt one is lethal. You know, so many things happening. And corruption, corruption is the going thing now. And listen to a little definition of corruption. You say, to say if it's corrupt is that it is prohibited by law or rule. It involves misuse of position. It involves a reward or personal gain for the officer and or other persons, But all is not lost, They can do things to really bring back some sanity, And here, what the police has got to do, Paul, you hinted about it, is that they need to recruit with care. Look at the recruitment process. You mentioned a con man who's a doctor, and he graduated, from the Guyana Police Force. That a lot of what we call undesirables are entering the Guyana Police Force. The floodgates has been opened. All they're looking at is you pass the exam, you pass the medical, you get 2 recommendations, criminal records office clear you, you get a good report from the area that you've been living, the police there, and you gone in the Guyana Police Force. They're not looking at behavior. They're not testing you out to see the type of behavior that you display. They need to do they need to do. They need to check on behavior. in the recruitment process, put you in positions to see how you operate, to look at behavior. Then you need to, as the people join the force, establish appropriate policies and put them in writing. They're happy to talk of SOPs, and many times the SOPs not existing. Get proper SOPs, put them in writing, and the last giant constable must know what are the SOPs. Adopt good employee evaluation process. Make sure your sergeants know about your management philosophies and value. Develop good operational control. Perform regular, and this is what they're not doing. Perform regular integrity testing. They take away the loaner driver package and they give it to Zara. But nobody ain't doing no integrity testing on Zara to know whether they're doing what they're supposed to do. No integrity testing. Perform regular anti-corruption activities. And this one is critical. Implement ethics and integrity testing training in all training activity. Implement ethics and integrity testing training in every training activity. Integrity testing, you need to do that. Ethics got to be there. Integrity testing got to be there. But they're not doing those things there. People come in and join the force and then they just cover down and things. So we're saying is that we need to look properly in terms of corruption. And it could start with who you bring in the force. Yes, you will deal with those that you have there, but those are you bringing in. Your recruitment process, a lot of persons coming in the force, undesirable coming into the force, and they reach those who are corrupt and they continue it. So we're saying that you need to ensure that you do proper testing, proper recruitment, who you bringing in the force. You need to make sure that you bring in the right type of person. But you can't bring in the right person if you don't get proper remuneration, proper housing, proper housing for them, and all sort of things that you need to ensure that you look at the thing properly.
Yeah, but recruiting is so important, and we saw not so long ago where they said they wanted people to join the forces and forget about academic qualification. Just turn up, just come. You gotta get academic qualification. Not so long ago they did that. This very year. So where are we going? And the question is asked: are we gonna get rid of corruption? Somebody asked the question. It can be done. It's an uphill task. It's a very uphill task, but the commitment has to be there from the government, and therein lies the problem. If you get serious allegations of corruption against government people, including senior people in government, allegations that are not properly investigated and brought to some satisfactory conclusion, what do you expect? What do you expect? Nobody's going to believe what is going on. Then, as we say, this corruption has become cultural. It's a cultural thing now, as alluded to in the editorial. Cultural. People expect that when you stop, you pass or something. People making demand or people offering and so on. It has to stop. It has to stop. You go into places, somebody asks a question too about efficiency in government offices and so on. Because we understand, while the police are in the spotlight, and rightly so, other places, it is there. People will tell you other places, you got corruption. It's not only police, because of the role of the police. I know because the police is one person who has the legal authority to relieve a person of his freedom and so on. So you get a leverage. Nobody don't want to get relief of the freedom and so on. So a man might be willing to part, or his family member or somebody willing to part with their hard-earned dollars. But the thing has to be dealt with. I see again to the student who asked and who made the comment on Wednesday, wanted to know what whether they said what's the effect that we behave as if corruption was there when we were in the force. We have always said it was there. Always said it was there. But it's how it is dealt with. How it is dealt with. When allegations are made of credible investigations. So that policemen were fearful to break the law. But now I believe, I get the impression that that fear is not there because you go under close arrest, they tell you OPR investigating, and then you don't hear anything further. You hardly hear anything further about it. But let me move on. Can we talk about the bogus policeman who was a doctor? And share the life. This matter with Roberts, the former policeman who was arrested by the immigration authorities in Iowa and the USA. This thing has taken some dramatic twists and dramatic turns, right? I think the latest now that I read is that he is facing a federal charge for unlawful possession of arms because they say when he last week Friday, it's only last week Friday this thing broke, that he had a firearm and he's illegal and it's against the federal law for an illegal person to get a firearm. And then they're saying that when they search his home, they found other firearms. And then further, they are now claiming, I read yesterday, I am flabbergasted that they're now saying that a lot of the qualifications and so on that the man claimed that he has, not so. These institutions are now coming and said that is not so. Like it turned out to be, as some people say, man is a con man. That is what is being revealed now. And I'm shocked when you say don't get faith in flesh, But that is what is being revealed now. If we are to believe what is being said, if we are to believe what is being said, because the thing they said yesterday now, because he was in custody, ICE custody, but they say now that the feds have arrested him in relation to this unlawful possession of this firearm. Well, you know that as well? Unlawful possession of fire by an illegal alien. That looked like jail time. And at the end of the jail time, that looked like a free flight back to Guyana. I'm so, I would say sorry, because the truth is I'm sorry for you. Because when you read the man's credentials, you felt proud. But then you heard the man had 3 more on illegal firearm and all that thing. This is a man who, despite the fact that he never got a doctorate, he's not the only body who posted with a doctorate, who ain't a doctorate and reach high positions. But despite that, the man seemed to be a very educated man. I remember there was an officer, I know CC remember he, some years ago when I was in Borbies as commander, I think it would have been, can't remember who was the commissioner, but this is the man who, during the court, he was a cadet officer. And during the process of the interview and so on, the man bluffed them. The man never did produce his certificate. And they sent him on the standard military officer course. And at the end, the man graduated. The man was successful, graduated. And when he graduated, appointed cadet, then they discover he didn't get the necessary qualification. And they wanted, I remember when I interviewed, I said, look, take away the cadetship from you because he ain't qualified. But if he wants to remain in the force, keep him on. Said he said he sent it to Borbies. Because for him to have gone through that training, he got to get something in. He had to get some metal. But I think he lasts long after that. So yeah, Robbie, what is being revealed now about Ian Roberts is shocking to me and to many people who have communicated to me. It's shocking. CC?
Yeah.
Robbie? Yeah.
Shock. But then again, what happened with all those layers that he had to pass through? Those persons who do background checks, and the same thing like the guy in the police force, they ain't doing no proper background checks. So there is no background checks, people just accept at face value. Whatever say, hey, I get X amount of qualification, and they take it, and as gospel. So background checks, very, very important. And coming back to the guy in the police force, there's what they're not doing. They're not doing proper background checks. And I remember the FBI when they used to do background checks. They hire retired FBI agents to do background checks. Perhaps in the Guyana police force, they should do some some persons who retire from the force, especially in the investigating the CID section, maybe they can contract them, to do background checks, because as I mentioned before, a lot of undesirables are entering the Guyana police force through the slack recruitment system.
I love my students, and I tell y'all, when I come here and I see anything, I don't bluff. So I told you just now with the story with the man who went through the cadet and the man was successful and all of that. Somebody put up a name there. Some of the students who know, I don't come here and lie. I just remember these things and I get good memory. Yeah, the man, he has stayed long in the work after that. Yeah, but the man went and I told them at the meeting, I said, look, this man gets something in it, because the fact that this man go on this program, on a GDF program, because the people who went through it will tell you it's not an easy program. That 1 year is a rough 1 year. And the man was able to successfully complete that officer cadet program. But he think as a constable, and then he stay around for long. Now, the next thing that I wanted to tell you, got to keep you all updated. The thing about it, many of these things that slip by. We are talking about the Quinlan Bacchus murder, right? 2022, I think it was, June or sometime then. I understand that the murder trial of Christophe de Nabriga, that is a police lance corporal from Special Branch, who is charged with killing de Nabriga. The trial commenced in the Demerara Assizes. The trial is ongoing. At least the trial start. I think it might have been Tuesday or something. The trial start. And here, let me tell you something. Just to show you the system that we have. We've got to talk about these things, They can vex so much vex they want. They will vex with them face. Right? The murder trial of Christophe de Nabriga has commenced. And them stupid charge with the institute against Damien McLennan and Thurston Simon in the magistrate court summary charge. Can't done yet. I want that sinking. I want that sinking. After 3 years, the murder trial of Quinlan Bacchus has commenced in the Demerara Assizes, right? And the summary charges that were instituted against Damien McLennan and Thurston Simon can't finish yet in the magistrate court. Can't. And you tell me that this Guyana is a real place? How can Guyana be a real place where a murder trial has commenced and likely to finish before the summary charges against the ranks? Can't be a real place. And if you recall in that matter, I was researching it last night when the family brought a civil suit against the government for wrongful killing of Quinlan Bacchus, and the judge awarded a total, I think, $24 million. And the government said they're appealing. There's too much money for police pay for killing a man. They admitted wrongdoing when the matter came up. The government, through the Attorney General's chamber, admitted wrongdoing. And then when the damages were awarded, they said the money too much, they're going to appeal. But luckily for the estate of Quinlan Bacchus, elections were approaching. So they come out and said, the president, I think, next statement said, no, we ain't appealing, we can pay the money. Why did we get the money? And it is my view that the only reason that they came out like that is because it was election year and election approaching. They think, because, them like a shame, Remember, Lincoln Lewis said the strength of the PPP is that they have no shame. And I concur fully with him, right? So, yes, they began to hear about the thing because the matter is before the court, and I don't think any of us should comment on the merits or so on as the charge. But let's see where that will go. Let's see where that thing will go. Because at the end of the day, the evidence will have to be produced. The evidence will have to be properly interrogated and so on. And then it's a jury of 12 that determine the fate of of the Nabriga. A jury of 12 will determine his fate. So let's see where that will go. But again, it is sad to know that that matter has progressed to the state where the trial has commenced in the High Court, and the summary matters against the two policemen, incidentally, who were arbitrarily, summarily dismissed from the force. So there was no presumption of innocence. The day they appeared in court, I think it was the 5th of July, 2022, the squatter dismissed them the same day. Did not offer them the constitutionally guaranteed presumption of innocence. Right? Now, then they're charged, dismissed. And I would hope, because these matters, I don't know if they're waiting for the conclusion in the magistrate court or whatever, but matters like these should go to the High Court, bring lawsuit against them, at least to get the ruling. Let the records reflect that the action of the commissioner acting at the time, the squatter, was unconstitutional, illegal. The records must so reflect. The records must so reflect. You don't take these things lying down. So, yes. See, what are your views about this trial, my brother? Now, well, not the trial in itself, but the fact that I've said the matter has now reached a trial stage in the High Court, but the magistrate matters, the summary matters are still limping through the system.
Well, I know, but the matter started in the High Court. But then they have numerous matters, Paul, numerous matters. Some matters 11 years old, some matters 12 years old. Perhaps nobody in monitoring what's going on there, and nobody in asking questions, to see that these matters there in the magistrate court and not being in trial, numerous matters. And it come back to the point, that we used to check on what we call ranks interdicted. What's the position with them, and follow up. My last check I had, I think about over 50 something policemen before the court in criminal matters. But a lot of matters lying in the magistrate court. I talk about 12 years, 11 years, 10 years. They're still there and no trial. But I'm happy that this one has gone to the Supreme Court and it's starting.
Because only recently, remember we spoke here about Sergeant Lindo. Man interdicted for how many years? How many years? Then the matter dismissed now, right? By the time the matter dismissed, the man is now retired. The man meets past retirement age. And I hope I advise him on this program that he should make sure he pursue all his benefits because he was interdicted and placed on half pay. Now that the matter has been dismissed against him in the High Court, he needs to get all the remainder of his money. The remainder of the money. Some people talk about all the increases and all them. A lot of money he's supposed to get, right? A lot of money. And of course, then now he has to be reinstated at some stage so that the Ministry of Finance and the Police Finance Office can calculate his gratuity and his benefits and all those everything. Sergeant Lindo, don't leave it to chance. Pursue your benefits vigorously, right? Vigorously. And then the same thing again with the thing, while the man was interdicted and waiting the outcome of the thing, they promoted to inspector. Even though he had retired, he had reached the mandatory age of retirement, right? The whole system has broken down, Minister. This is back to the Minister now. Because, for example, this is October 2025. All ranks in the force who would attain the age of 55 next year should have been written to already to tell them when they're supposed to proceed on leave prior to retirement and when they're going to retire. All the ranks who would have attained the age of 50, who would attain the age of 55 next year, 2026. You write them the year before. But as I all them thing now, a lot of those things break down now. A lot of those systems have broken down. So I don't know how you're gonna. That might be myself. That is an operational matter, but it's a welfare issue. It's a welfare issue. People work for all them years, how many years? I mean, the government talking about they make big thing when they wanted votes that no ranks will retire. No person in the force will retire at a lower rank than inspector. You have very stupid, sir. So it wasn't a case of merit any longer. So if you're going to say no rank will retire at the lower rank than the inspector, so whether the person get the knowledge or not, you say they're going to promote them for promote them sake. And then when you promote them, what? You put them in positions where they can't function, right? That is part of the problem for broke up the organization. This is how they're breaking it up by indigenizing the command, the senior command of the force, right? You talk about these things to an vex. All of those things the new minister will have to look at. And we will look to see, according to the police, no? Sting and the police, I'll be watching. Every step you make, every breath you take, the police sing the song, Sting, I'll be watching. I remember it very well. If Dudley is on, when I went to UN in 1989, in Namibia, working with the United Nations peacekeeping there, and the briefing, a man from Jamaica, I think he was Superintendent Dwyer. That's the thing. He said, every step you take, every breath you make, I'll be watching you. He was warning us. Superintendent Dwyer. I always remember that. I'm sure Dudley would know the person to whom I refer. Yeah, folks. So we have that. Now, the last thing before we move on, before we close out for today, you got to follow up this cash grant fiasco, you know. The promised cash grant. Then with the hearing rumor that it's not going to be individuals any longer, it's going to be households. And then we hear now, according to the statement made, I understand yesterday, I am told that yesterday the Vice President said it's going to be for individual. And then he said that the cash grants will be granted, but he said we get 5 years. He said this term is a 5-year term. So all of you who vote for cash grant, expecting you're going to get them by Christmas, and you don't spend them already, you better be careful. You better be careful. So that was the latest we heard yesterday about the cash grant. The Vice President is reported to have said, I'm saying that because I didn't hear it myself, he's reported to have said that it's a 5-year term, and the promises that were made by the President will be delivered. So they will get cash grant. But I don't think they committed to giving a cash grant before the end of the year. So all of you who want that, well, you got to look to, you got to look to, because, when they try to bribe the police and so on, police used to get joint services, not the police and army, they got a 1.5 back pay December leading up to Christmas. Now that everybody come back there, now that a 5 more year upon you, you're not sure if you get the 1.5 for Christmas this time around. You're sure that if you're going to get it. For the longest while, you're getting the 1.5 and thing. But let's see what will happen. Let's see. They might very well decide to give you some money before they're ready. You're not going to move forget. Because we don't want your vote any longer. We get what we want. So let me bring in CC for give his closing, and then I can tell you all about what can happen on the next program. CC, your closing, please.
Well, they might give you incrementally, You get it incrementally. Well, I want to know what's going on in the training department, Guyana Police Force. I can't call it an academy because it was the only academy in the world that doesn't have any department, Anyway, but I heard the squatter, the outgoing squatter said that, and I listened to him carefully, that when you complete a junior officer's course, you get a diploma. And when you complete a senior officer course, you get a degree. I don't know who's going to accredit them. But then again, people getting degree from IFLOP, people getting from Palmero, and all kind of things. This is what I'm answering. When you complete a junior officer course, you get a diploma. And a senior officer course, you have a degree. And a junior officer course, I think, goes for about 3 months. And a senior officer course for about a month. And then I read recently they had a senior leadership course. A senior leadership course. and there are inspectors on it. How it could be a senior living course with inspectors on it? And then, Paul, I saw a parade with females. Total confusion. They were the females there on this parade, and at least about 6 people, different people inspecting them. I thought, well, the inspecting officer would be there, the parade commander there, and some person who taking the notes. But also the people, the inspecting officer passed them, and several other women with the rank of a superintendent inspecting also, checking them and fixing them, all kind of thing there. No order whatsoever. It was real confusing. So I know we're really playing out at headquarters. I really don't know.
Yeah, well, you know, it's confusion, man. All the standards are falling. All the standards. I saw the video you're referring to. Standards are falling, and you know they can't see how things like that impacts the organization. You're talking about the image of the organization. When the minister made the statement she made and thing about management, it's image. Image is everything. These things have to be done correctly. We tell you when you write, you got to write properly. You got to make sure, because these things are going worldwide. I saw yesterday on social media, apparently there's a immigration form, passport application form, right? And apart when they talk about your descent, D-S-C-E-N-T should be, they put descent, D-C-E-N-T, on a form that's circulating. What happened to the checks? We're talking about it over and over. Yeah, we can make mistakes, but you have to have a system which allows for those mistakes to be caught before it gets into the public domain. I'm sure now they would have expended a whole set of money for printing them thing and so on. So what you do with that? You're going to scratch out D-C-E-N-T and put D-S-C-E-N-T. Those mistakes should never be made. Never. And I say they couldn't work with a man named Larry Leland Lewis. They would have got to run out the work, because he had an eye for detail. And he trained us that way. He trained us. As a matter of fact, Larry Lewis was had such an eye for detail that if you have to write something or take something to him, you make sure you read over and over and over, you get somebody to read. He didn't tolerate nonsense, but now us at a mistake, the writing and it going out there. All kind of mistakes, especially the unit they call the Corporate Communication Unit, the Corporate Propaganda Unit. They write a whole set of crap. They write a whole set of things. But it affects the image of the organization. It's not old man slow, just finding something to talk about. We're talking about the image of the institution called the Guyana Police Force. And therefore, if we talk, the minister talks about restoring pride and all of that, those are some of the things that you have to look at, how you dress, how you carry yourself. It still hurts me when I see policemen on duty, no address, they're running all over the place, not dressed properly. Some of them are properly dressed. But those are the things that you have to insist. You have a dress code, they must abide by the dress code. You got a man, we show the picture the other day, the man got on ski mask and all that. How can that be allowed? How can that? You cannot see that if people become accustomed to seeing somebody that believe is a policeman just like that, with a thief man just like that, it's not going to alarm them. You can't see that. Can you not see that? And these are things, when I was at operations, these are things that would fall under me. Or at least I took them on. I didn't make sport to that, coming from a TSU background, when it comes to dress, things like flags and so on. That is what we were trained for. How the flag should be flown, tattered flags and flagpole. That you have an eye, because I was a drill instructor. And you have an eye for those things. That was the training. And it has remained with you, it remains with you for the rest of your life. So I am saying this not because I'm nitpicking, as some of y'all don't believe, but because I really and truly want to see, now that you have a new minister, some of these things implemented. Some of these things implemented. Right? And minister, again, I say, you got to surround yourself with people you can trust, people who understand what is going on, people who are not afraid to ask questions. That is the people, yes, nobody, yes, buddy. God, that is what you have now. Yes, people. Yes, yes. Right? Can't make no meaningful contribution. Can't. Now, folks, in the notification, I said I would have been dealing with a response from the traffic chief to the ongoing discussion about the safety or the carnage on the road. But as you would have realized, time was caught up with us this afternoon. It was important that we address the minister's interaction with the police. But don't be coming, we are coming on it. I have all the research to deal with it. So most likely Monday when we come again, I'm going to deal with the response by the traffic chief to the suggestion that they should establish a Linden Suzdijk safety unit to deal specifically with certain issues. The issues of safety were identified, and the man come with a lot of BS in yesterday's Kaicho news. So we're going to deal with that. The next thing that I want to deal with at the next episode, you might have read today, where the government to introduce standardized vehicle tint level and also examine application process for gun license. That is what Jack Dio said yesterday. I'm going to address it on Monday. God spare life. We come again on Monday. I'm going to address it. Because when they talk about addressing gun license process, wait, see, because we talk about all the corruption and so on going on, maybe because the vice president is reported to have said yesterday that they're going to examine the application process for gun license, right? That is what they decide now. So we're going to see what will go on. We're going to see what will take place, right? Folks, we have had a good afternoon. Again, the weekend coming up, the past 3-4 weekends have been bloody. Let's hope that the devil stays away. Let's hope. I read a report today, some more than Bobby, sometime last night or something. I saw a flash somewhere, some murder. Somebody of some mentally challenged person kill some other person. I'm laughing, but it's serious, serious. So, folks, all I can say to you, stay well, be safe. I will continue to improve you. I ain't gonna stop. I ain't gonna do like the traffic chief and say, well, you're responsible, and when you get accident and so on, is you and not we. All of us are involved. All of us are going to be consumed. Yet long ago we used to say road safety is everybody's business. Perhaps the motto should be reinforced. Road safety is everybody's business. And having said that, again, I ask you,
sit there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, yes, he is a friend of ours.
He claims.
Yes, your relationship. That's the question. Don't play like if you're in here. We asked about your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong. Yes, that's the question. So don't play all of a sudden stick brock in your ears. You ain't hearing what we say. Folks, God spare life. We're going to come again on Monday to bring you another episode of Speaking Out, exposing corruption and incompetence. Until then, stay well. Bye.